Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Forest Brewery, and a big thank you to Forest Brewery for hosting this evening's Otway Odyssey 2021 Q&A. And it's a huge privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to have multi-time Olympians, multi-time world champions, multi-time Australian champions, and new dog owners, Dan McConnell and Bec McConnell. Let's give them a round of applause. So I'm wondering, do we want to talk about mountain biking, or should we just talk about Lenny the Dash Hound? What do you reckon, guys? Lenny is very cute. We will get to Lenny. So let's start off with some quick questions, whichever order you want to go in. Full names. What are your full names?
Daniel James McConnell.
Rebecca Ellen McConnell.
Rebecca Allen, was it?
Ellen.
Helen.
Ellen with an E.
Nice. Allen with an E. Rebecca Allen McConnell. Sorry, motorbike went past and it was hard to hear. And even harder, nicknames?
I am Bec.
Bec. And?
I
You've
have
got a few,
I've got
yeah?
quite a lot, yeah.
Let's go through them.
Dan, Macca, what else? Yeah, Max. I don't know.
Max.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
just
That's
some
good.
random ones.
Alright, so quick memory test, because I'm interested in this, and it will start easy and it'll get harder. How many Olympics have you been to?
3.
2.
Okay, getting harder. How many world champs have you raced? Not World Cups, because that'd be too hard. World champs?
Maybe 17.
Wow, that's a lot of world champs. Bec?
I think about 11.
11. Amazing. How many, I'm not going to ask how many Australian champs, because that would be hard. How many Australian titles? Dan?
I'm not sure. Maybe about 7, I think.
Imagine winning so many Aussie titles that you can't even remember. And Bec?
I genuinely don't know.
Beck's won everyone since
Well, I was about to ask that. So since under 17,
13.
under 13, an unbroken run of national championships. Well, I wasn't going to go deep this early, but let's go deep. How do you feel about that, Bec? Like, is part of you like, I wish someone had come and beat me already?
No.
Well, there we go. It didn't take very long to get an answer for that. So that's incredible. How many is that in a row?
My first one was in Eildon when I was like really young. But I don't remember what year that was. And yeah, like just through the age groups. But yeah, I feel like they get a bit more legit when you get to juniors and under 23s and elite. So yeah.
And was that the Eildon National Champs where things got a bit rowdy and not amongst you guys? Maybe you don't even know.
I wouldn't have known anything.
Ray would probably know. You were under 13s. There was a national champs where everyone got kicked out of Eildon and weren't allowed to come back to Eildon until this year. This year was the first time. Do you know, Ray? Was it that champ? Yeah. Anyway. All right. So today you both won the 2021 Otway Odyssey. Congratulations. Talk us through it. So Bec, you go first, and I want you to take your time with this, because a big part of what I wanted this to be about was you guys gaining insight into what it's like to not just be Bec and Dan McConnell, but to be people that go to races and win races. Because these guys, Dan has won 3 races in the last 3 weekends. So, bit of a slip there. Bec has won 2 out of 3. Tell us about winning the Otway Odyssey today. Bec, do you want to start? Let's start from breakfast.
Ooh,
Tell us about your preparation, what goes through your mind, all that stuff.
I'm not an early morning person, and I had my alarm for 4:40 a.m. Standard wake up time is closer to 9 on a normal day, so that was fairly brutal. Got a little bit of my breakfast down, definitely not all of it. But yeah, kind of scrambled to get going this morning and be at the start by, what time was it? 7 o'clock?
7:30? Or 7?
No,
Oh, no, we
it was at 7.
started earlier.
And then, yeah, didn't really get any time for too much warm up, and then Samara lit it up on the first climb, which went for maybe half an hour. So, yeah, I was a little bit behind her for the early part of the race, and then we came together and kept it pretty steady for like almost the entire race. Yeah, like we sort of swapped turns, and neither of us was really willing to like go all in and commit to making a move. And I knew that I'd already ridden the last 35k. I knew what I was in for, and I knew that if I had something left that I should be pretty good to get away in the single track. So I just sort of tried to stay patient and eat as much as I could, and keep it pretty chill. I felt like it was kind of on her to get rid of me before the single track came, and she didn't. So yeah, I just went to the front just after we left the oval, and she sort of was dropping the wheel in a few corners, and I thought, okay, now's the time. And then I'm like, I've still got 90 minutes, so just keep a lid on it. But yeah, it was pretty much smooth sailing from there.
And now, you said that Samara lit it up. Do you put any time into thinking about what competitors might do before a race, or is it all about just having your plan and sticking to your plan?
I kind of knew that, there was a few road girls here, and Samara, and we had quite a good field. But I was quite confident that if it got to the last 35k we were together, that I could win it. So yeah, we knew that, like Dan and I talked about, as you do, and yeah, we knew that they would try to put the pressure on pretty early, and as it turned out, that's how it happened. But yeah, she didn't really keep with it. She never really turned the screws too many times. So yeah, it was actually reasonably steady as it can be, in this area.
And you mentioned that you rode the single track. Did you recce any other parts of the course, or was that the main bit that you recce?
No, we just did the last 35. It was only on Wednesday that we knew we would be able to come, so we drove down Thursday morning, and we got here at 4 or 5 o'clock and did the loop, which took us quite a bit longer. It's 35k, and then we're 2.5 hours later, we're just getting back to the car. So yeah, that was more than enough.
So last question for you, and then I'll move about today's race, and then I'll move to Dan. What about that section through Noonday, which is like the 4 big climbs in a row that's not single track, it's just been bulldozed? What was it like in there? Was that a bit unexpected, or were you what was the vibe through there?
Yeah, I had a pretty open mind with what to expect, because I just really didn't know, and we've been racing the past few weeks, so I hadn't really had time to really think about what the course was like, and I didn't do any research, and that's probably bad on my part. But yeah, we actually got caught by a few other girls in there, and we turned into a little bit of a group for a little while. But yeah, I was happy to get through there safely, because there was some really sketchy sections, and there were sticks flying everywhere, and all of us had to stop at least once to pull them out of our derailleurs. So yeah, I was very happy to get through that smoothly and safely.
Good to gain some insight, and congratulations again on the win, Beth. Dan, you had a different race, so Bec had a battle with Samara. You were in a group of 5, came through the oval. You and Trekkie and young Sam Fox. You won't mind me calling him young. Who else was in that? AJ, and then there was a road rider. Can you remember his name? Sorry, road rider, if you're watching this. That's okay. So what I noticed through the oval was you were sitting on the back of that group, looking very comfortable. What's going through your head at that stage? So you've got 64 under the belt. You're looking pretty comfortable. Are you sussing them out? What's going on then?
Yeah, I sort of was trying to put the pace on in the single track previous, so I think 50 to 60 Ks, and wasn't really getting anywhere. So just the last few Ks into the feed zone, I knew I just had to rest, and then yeah, pretty much as soon as we got to the sand, climbing out of the feed zone, that was where I was always going to make my move, and it just sort of panned out like that. But yeah, just in a long race like that, you sort of, I don't know, a lot happens and a lot like emotional tension and whatever else happens, and yeah, so you just kind of, yeah, at that point I was just trying to stay focused because there's so many things that can catch you out. So yeah, just trying to stay focused and stick with my plan.
You mentioned emotional tension, and to be honest, I'm surprised to hear that. Like, you've raced Olympics, you've raced Aussie champs a million times. To hear that you feel that at the Otway Odyssey, is that something that is in every race for you, no matter what level it is, that there's always some level of tension?
Yeah, it's just different. Like, I mostly do cross country, which is 90 minutes, so I know very well how fast I can go. I turn up to a race like this where it was supposed to be 5 hours, and it changes a lot. So, you know, if you stuff up your time and you go too hard too early, yeah, it's going to hurt. Like when the last time I did this race, I think I got to maybe 20 Ks to go and I was stuck on the side of the road for probably half an hour with cramps. So yeah, I know I can definitely catch you out, so I was really cautious just to make sure I was eating, drinking, trying to just stay relaxed and yeah, like not take it to it, like not yeah, I guess not just get too carried away and just dismiss it. It's an easy track when it's definitely not.
And you mentioned that you attacked out of the feed zone. Was that out of the oval or the?
Just when we crossed the road, it goes sort of into a sandy climb for just a few hundred metres, and I knew generally when people slow down for a feed zone, sort of, you know, you stop and you just lose your flow a little bit. So a lot of the time out of the feed zone is actually quite a good spot to go because everyone's sort of struggling to get back into their rhythm again.
And Sam Fox went with you?
Yeah, so Sam went with me, and at that point I thought Trekkie was the main sort of competition, so I pushed fairly hard for a few K just to get that gap open, and then yeah, Sam went to the front and he had me under the pump for probably 5 Ks in the single track, and I thought I had my work cut out, and then he just all of a sudden just stopped and let me go, and I was like, oh, okay, so he must be struggling as well. I did notice he was like hitting a lot of stuff, and yeah, and then a few Ks after that he had a pretty big crash behind me, so yeah, he was alright, but yeah, it's just such a hard course and there's so many corners and, you know, little trees and shrubs, and yeah, it's just hard to stay focused for so long.
So, you know, I'm a coach and I've worked with the Australian juniors, and I get really excited to see like Sam on you this weekend, and Cam Wright was on you in Canberra last weekend. As a, I guess, you know, the leading rider in Australia for a long time now, is there a part of you that is really happy to see those young guys coming through, or are you like, or is the competitor in you like, I want to keep kicking, I'm going to swear, I want to keep kicking these guys' ass for a few more years yet?
Oh, I think it's both. Obviously, while I'm still racing, I want to be at the top, and yeah, but at the same time, it's really good to see young guys coming through. Like, it's fairly sad, really, that, you know, Cam Wright's probably the next guy behind me, and he's just turned 21. So there's, you know, like 15 years gap. So yeah, I guess the main big thing with that is it's just it's more just disappointing that there's not more guys knocking like most countries. You know, there's top guys all through, and in Oz you kind of just lose most of our guys either to the road or, you know, it just gets a bit too hard to do it full time. So yeah, I think it's more just a little bit sad more than anything. We definitely have the talent, but yeah, it's just keeping the guys in the sport for long enough so they actually get the opportunities.
Yeah, and I wish we had more time because I'd love to dig into that with you, but we're not, we don't have that much enough time to dig into that. So it's great to hear about both your races, and it's great to have you here. To have a big race in a little town. It's great to have World Cup Olympians, and just fantastic. So it gives a lot of prestige to the event. So let's go backwards a little bit. How did you guys start mountain biking?
I just started, I guess, riding to school as a kid. I grew up in regional Victoria, just sort of near the entrance. Yeah, Bruton. So there was only a couple hundred people, and yeah, I was just riding to school, and then it just happened to be there was like one of the best BMXers in the country who lived pretty close to me, and he just started running mountain bike races. So I just got into it through that really, and yeah, the sort of family got into it a little bit, and yeah, it just sort of took off from there.
Sorry, that was my mum calling. Bec, how did you get into it? And sorry, who was the BMXer out of interest?
Glenn Wilson.
Bec?
I just got into it following my older brother and my dad around. Sometimes the sport caused a bit of a rift in the family because I have two other siblings that are not so well known because my older brother races, and there was too much mountain bike talk at the dinner table, but I just followed them around and got into it like that.
And Bec, while you're talking, I'll ask the next question. When did you know that you were good? Was there a moment or a race result or a time when you beat your dad or your brother? When did you know, I'm good here?
That's tricky because in my younger years there was no girls to race, so I would often race like the state rounds with the boys. And you really never knew if you were good or not. And then I went overseas and raced, and people would say I was good, and then I got to my first World Championships as a junior and finished 22nd. And I was a bit probably disappointed about that. I think the first time I sort of thought I really could be good was maybe 2012 when I started really focusing on qualifying for the Olympics. I think that was when I first thought that there could be a future in this for me.
And were you under 23 by that stage?
Yes.
Yeah. And what about you, Dan? When did you know you were good?
No, that's a tough one. I guess you can definitely be fairly good in Australia, but it doesn't really mean a lot depending on the depths. So I don't know. I guess we spend most of the time, or at least half the year in Europe, so it's a steep learning curve. But I guess probably around 2012 was when I started actually getting results. I'd already been on the circuit for quite a few years, and it took me quite a while to actually find my feet and probably just believe that I can actually ride towards the front.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys spent about 3 years in a van cruising around Europe racing World Cups. Is that about the right timeline?
We never had a van as such, but the first few years we started doing it together, we was pretty low key. Bec was just under 23s, I think, out of juniors, and I kind of wasn't going that good. And I guess Bec always it was quite clear to me earlier that Bec was going to be really good, because although she said she was disappointed with 23rd or whatever at her first Worlds, that's off basically no training. So it was actually quite good, and but I think we spent a few years just trying to do all the big races, get our names out there, get the experience, and just took a few years, but we finally got there, and I guess the turning curve was when we signed with Trek.
So I'm interested in what you said about Bec, because was it the result and no training, or were there other things that you saw in Bec that you thought she's going to be good?
I think just her skills, like her skill level is as good as you can get. Like there's not too many girls in the world that are faster technically. So I think that's always a big head start, and then and then it just takes time. You just got to put the work in. There's not really any shortcuts to becoming fast. You just got to spend the time, and I guess just you got to want to do it. Like you can't just do it 80%. You've got to put your whole life into wanting to be at the front.
So for the juniors that are here, that's you think that skill development is a key to becoming, if they want to go to Europe or win Australian Championships or whatever, that skill development is super important.
Yeah, I think so. Like it's a really hard thing to develop. Like you can always train the body to get fitter and faster, and or that's like kind of the easy part in a way. Like I think the skill it's the hard thing to actually train, and it's hard to actually train your skills. So yeah, I think that's the big one as like a young kid coming through for sure. I think just work on the skills. Obviously the fitness is also super important, but you can have a coach and they will give you exactly what to do. Where the skills work it's really hard to know what's going to help you get better.
Did you want to add anything to that, Bec?
Well, Dan was the coach and the boss, so I trust him completely.
Great. So we talked about international travel. We talked about where you knew you were at with that, and Dan, you talked about like in Australia, you can be good, but what does that really mean compared to international? So I imagine racing internationally, and it doesn't have to be about then; it can be about now. How do you manage them? Results-wise, like a World Cup, there's 5 minutes between first and 50th, so there's 50 riders in 5 minutes. So every week there's a fair bit of fluctuation. Your form can be 2 minutes different from the week before, and that's 30 places. How do you guys have a process that you use to manage those ups and downs? And I'm really interested in from the juniors who are here, how they can, and I'll tell a little story. I was in Mont Saint Anne when Bec finished third, and I saw Bec and Dan. I don't think they knew I was there, but I was at Mont Saint Anne. Has anyone been to Mont Saint Anne? There's like a milk bar, and Bec had just finished third in the world, and they went to the milk bar and got some lollies, and I was like, that must be the celebration. Do you try to manage the highs so that they're not too high, and the lows? Talk to me about how you manage that high and low fluctuation.
Quite the opposite, actually. We've learned through so many hard times, and like times where we've achieved like amazing results for ourselves and not celebrated enough. And I don't mean like getting drunk and partying all night. Like there's a time and a place for that, but just like living in that moment and appreciating it, because like, it's few and far between. Like it's not easy to win a race or to get a podium at a World Cup, or and like there's been times there's like we didn't make the most of when Dan was a regular on the podium, and I think we took that for granted. And again, like my second World Cup podium, and we didn't really like feel that moment, because when you're riding at that level, you think next week I can be there again, and then it doesn't necessarily happen. So yeah, every time we have a good result or a good race, or we really take the time to enjoy that, because we work so hard for this, and it's like 80% hard and not fun, and like sometimes you're just dragging yourself out of bed, and racing is tough. So yeah, we have learned to like really enjoy those moments that we've worked hard for, and to if one of us has a good race and the other one has a terrible race, we just go with the good, and we just enjoy that.
That's fantastic. Really good insight there. Dan, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's pretty much just what we found works really good. Riding is hard. obviously it's also extremely fun, but yeah, it's hard, and we've got to like celebrate the little wins, whether it's just a training session that went really well or a winning race. So yeah, I think you've really got to just, it helps just to keep the motivation going, and just it gives you something to aim for, also short term, not just long term as well.
Awesome. So let's talk very quickly about last year's World Champs. Bec, and I don't think this has been talked about enough. I think this is amazing. Like, you guys spent most of last year in Australia, got on a plane, did one race, then did Worlds, and came third at Worlds. That's an incredible thing to do, to be on pace, to spend a year away out of Europe, then get on a plane and be on pace at Worlds. Can you tell us a bit about, give us some insight into, firstly, what it was like being in Australia, knowing that there was racing going on, and then getting to Worlds and coming third. Can you give us some insight into what that was like?
Yeah, it was a really challenging time for us. To be so far away from the action and where everything's happening, and things are changing within a few days, and we're stuck having to wait at home to see what the best move is. Racing starts going ahead, races are cancelled, and we're just sitting by waiting, like, what do we do? And just, we committed to just continuing our training, like, more base case, but we knew we were going to need like 4 or 5 or 6 weeks before the race to know, like, change up the training and be ready to do the races. And I think, like, mentally it was quite challenging when we started seeing people doing the racing, but then also being so unsure if that was an environment we wanted to get ourselves involved in. So there was a lot that went into it, but we were desperate to do some racing at home, and some of the races we had committed to doing got cancelled super last minute, and we had 2 big preparation races, and they were local club races. And that's what we did before we went to Europe. And then, we raced in Poland 1 week before the first World Cup. But then, it was 10 days of just super intense racing, and then we were back on the plane home. So, we learned a lot, and knowing that, we know that you have to race to find your absolute best level, but to find that level with no preparation races is like a really positive outcome for us, and I think it holds us pretty well again going into this season. And who knows what happens with the Olympics and whatnot. We know that we're pretty adaptable, and I think we're still pretty confident we can find our best form.
So how much of that comes down, and again, this is something I think juniors can really learn from, how much of that last year comes down to self-belief?
I don't know if it's so much self-belief only gets you so far. I think consistency and maintaining your motivation, and even if you're not motivated, maintaining your training and just getting it done. Like, people think we're super motivated people all the time, and it's not necessarily the case. I think what makes a good athlete is when, even when you're not motivated, you can still get it done, and then again knowing when to just give yourself a break, mentally, physically, whatever that is. But yeah, I think it's just like staying consistent.
Dan, you also had an incredible Worlds last year. Was that what do you put that down to for you? Was it about consistency for you, or was there other things in the mix as well?
Yeah, I think like we actually did a lot of training. Like last year, it turns out that it was our most amount of time spent on the bike. So we trained really well. Somehow we were able just to keep focused, even though the races were kind of getting flicked off every few weeks. We just sort of stayed focused and just thought, well, racing will start at some point, so we just have to be ready when it does. And I think we both got Europe in really good form, and it's sort of mountain biking is generally, if you have good form, you can get the results. Like obviously you need a little bit of luck as well, but generally, if you have the legs, you can fight your way to the front.
Fantastic. 2 more questions from me, and then we'll throw it to the crowd. Olympic Games this year in Tokyo. How are the Olympics, or I'm assuming the Olympics are different from a World Cup or a World Championships? What are the major differences between an Olympic mountain bike racing and a World Cup or a World Champs?
I guess just the main difference is just that there's the best athletes from every sport. So it's just this massive event, but I guess for us, like, we pretty much see it very similar to like World Cups or World Champs. Like, you really, I don't know, we're fairly lucky because Olympics is generally around the World Cups, so we just know we have to be in good shape for them. And yeah, it's really hard to, if you just put 4 years of your life into one race, and you know, anything can happen. So you can't just really, after you put 4 years into one race. In Rio, I broke my spokes in the start loop, and my race was pretty much done like after a minute. So I think we've just learned from races like that you just go there in the best shape you can, and just try and treat it as a normal race. Obviously, there's nothing really normal about the Olympics, but you've just got to, I think we just keep it fairly low key and try and keep everything exactly the same, and we know what works. And
Your thoughts, Bec?
Yeah, I think Olympics is so tricky. It's an event that breaks more hearts than it helps, kind of thing. Like, you know, there's so much expectation and so much like coverage around the Olympics, and then, you know, in Aussie culture, if you don't get a medal, what happened? And, you know, like, that's something that's quite tough when, you know, there's that expectation from the public that you go to the Olympics and you get a medal. And we can do that in swimming and in track cycling, and people don't understand that, like, the background that the money and the resources that are going into those athletes compared to mountain biking. We don't have any money or any resources. And, you know, like, people like Dan and I have been on our own for the best part of 10 or 15 years, and which is fine, and we love it like that. But just that, like, when you come home and how was the Olympics? Did you get a medal? No? Like, and you feel like you're a failure. And I think it's just like learning to be mature enough to overcome, like, to not care about that and not worry about that. And like Dan says, we just have, over our experiences, learned that it's just one race, and, like, you know, we both came away from Rio super disappointed, and I think that, like, was a major life lesson for us. And I think, you know, now we can just kind of go in there with nothing to lose and, you know, just do our thing.
So how do you prepare? Like, what are we now? February, so 4 months to the Olympics? Is that right? 4 or 5 months. Are you planning to race domestically until then, or what's the plan? And if it's all, you know.
We're just planning our standard race schedule. You know, we have commitments to the team, and realistically for the team, Olympics is not a huge priority race unless you come back with a medal. So you know, the World Cup start in May, and we're all in for those. And of course, we're going to do specific training and try to time our peak as best we can towards the Olympics. But you know, a lot of people do that and miss time, and, you know, like, we're just not going to change anything and just focus on those races. And again, the World Championships is just before or just after, so, like, it's a good time to hit form. And
Did you want to add anything, Coach?
No, not really. I think the plan at the moment is to go to Europe in April, and we have our race calendar. It's actually quite full, which is good. Racing sort of getting back underway in Europe, and hopefully things will start settling down there over the next few months. But apart from that, I think everything, like, this will be my 20th year straight racing in Europe, so we have a pretty good idea of how we can go about it, and you know, hopefully get the results that we want to get when we need to get them.
Fantastic. Let's throw it to the crowd. So we'll take a few questions from the crowd. Who'd like to? Yes, Mick over there. Do you want to yell?
Yeah, you have to be those Sorry? Question?
Yeah.
Oh, what time did you go through today?
I think my time was around 4 hours 35 or something.
Okay. And Bec?
I'm not 100% certain, plus or minus 5.5 hours.
And compared to the course previous years, how have you done it?
Yeah, Bec hasn't done it. I've done it twice actually, but I think that was like the first and the second edition. So I haven't sort of raced for probably 12 or 13 years, I think.
Is it harder?
It's about what I remember, to be honest. It's a really hard race. I think you have all of the climbing and the more sort of just tempo sort of sections early, and then the last sort of 50 k's is quite hard just to stay concentrated. You're already so fatigued when you get to that point, and then it's very tight in the forest, especially the last 35k. And I think that's what really makes it hard. I think if it was raced like backwards, it would be sort of a lot easier mentally for sure.
And well, today upon the do you own an e-bike?
I do. And
I do.
it is amazing. I think
You got on it yet?
No.
everybody should have an e-bike in their garage.
So we've got a question over here, but while I'm trying to that question, why an e-bike? And do you remember what you were riding last, like in terms of what the bike was last time you raced the Odyssey? And it doesn't have to be specifics, but it could be general, like it was a 26-inch with three front chain rings and
Yeah, well, I'm sure it had 3 chain rings for sure, and for sure it was a 26.
I'm sure it was a hardtail.
Definitely a hardtail. Yeah, it was probably a cube, I think. I was riding for the Torque team. Yeah, but I guess bikes have changed a lot. But actually, I rode the hardtail today, so yeah.
Do you want to grab the dance and tell us why you got an e-bike?
About the e-bike, I justified it as a training tool, but one of the major reasons really was for taking our little puppy Lenny. I've just got him a basket to sit on the front of the e-bike, so haven't mounted it yet, but I'm really looking forward to doing that this week. And realistically, I am using it to, one, try to keep up with Dan occasionally, and two, just like it's a great way, I think, for me to use it as a skills development thing. I can go out and not be so tired climbing, and then I can actually work the descents. But for everybody, I think they're absolutely amazing. They make the sport so inclusive, and if you're not super fit, you can go to places where you've never been before, or you can go, if you could only normally ride 30 minutes, you can now ride an hour or maybe 2, and you can do it as easy or as hard as you want. So get an e-bike if you're thinking about getting into it.
Question over here.
How old were you when you started mountain biking?
Great question.
I was 10 years old when I started mountain biking, just, riding along with the family.
I think I did my first race when I was 5, but I guess, I've just been riding pretty much my whole life. I guess I only really took it serious, when I started, probably under 17s, I think.
And I guess an interesting thing that particularly for juniors to know, Dan, were you good straight away?
Not particularly. I think I was actually really lucky in, when I started, we had quite a lot of good guys. When I was juniors, we went to Worlds, and for the 2 years that I was junior, we were the number 1 ranked country in the world for juniors. So we had probably close to 10 guys who were actually proper fast. So yeah, unlike Bec, who sort of didn't have a lot of competition in Oz, there was quite a few guys young, and I think it just helped with my development a lot. So, yeah, but for sure, I definitely wasn't the fastest of them. But yeah, it just took me some years, and yeah, it just takes that to go to put in the work.
And your first words was pretty amazing. Who won stuff? Which Aussies won stuff at your first words?
So Trent Lowe, he won the junior race. So he ended up riding for Discovery Channel and Pro on the Road for quite a few years. I think I can't really remember who was at the front. I think Roland Green maybe. I think there was just quite a few fast Aussies in that time. Like Dell was always up there. And,
did Sam Hill win that year as well?
Yeah, I think he did. Lisa Matheson also won the juniors.
So I think there were 3 Aussie world champions in that year, which was pretty amazing. And I remember Dan saying to me, he thought that it would just be like that forever, that Aussies would just dominate. Any more questions? Yep.
I've got a question. I'll call out nice and loud.
This will be our second last question. We better let Bec and Dan rest.
Did you guys ride up the sandhill today, or is that impossible?
Yes, we did ride up. Well, I did. Yeah, so we did make it.
Us is a clap.
We did practice. Well, we saw that a few days ago, and we definitely knew that was one section that you have to clear. Especially if you were with someone that could potentially be sort of the last really big chance to put a move on. So we knew coming into that sort of also to down that fence line fast downhill just to try and save some legs so you were ready for it.
And that's an awesome effort right there.
One last question. Bec and Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you riding for a long time and then going home, having a shower and coming back. That's quite a drive down to Apollo Bay and back, so I really appreciate you making the effort. Good luck with World Cups, good luck with Olympics, good luck with World Championships. You're amazing ambassadors for mountain biking and for Australia, and we're lucky to have you racing overseas and here with us in Forest in this little town. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Let's give a round of applause for Bec and Dan, and thanks for your honesty and willingness to answer our questions, and we really appreciate it. And hope to see you at the Odyssey for 2022, where the rumour is that it'll get to Forest and then there's a road over there and then back to Apollo Bay, so 100 miler.
Well, thanks for having us, and good luck to everyone or anyone who's, I don't know if it's game enough or whatever, to do the gravel grind tomorrow.
Are you guys doing it?
No, we'll not be there.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your evening in Forest.